Let's talk about a tool that has become, and this is no exaggeration, the very heartbeat of our modern, cloud-native world. We're talking about Prometheus. It's a story that starts with a crisis at SoundCloud and ends with an open-source titan that powers the systems we all rely on every single day.
But to really get why Prometheus is such a big deal, you have to start with a really basic question. How do you monitor chaos? Seriously, how do you keep tabs on systems that are constantly shifting, scaling up and down, and sometimes just vanishing in the blink of an eye?
Well, that is the exact problem that SoundCloud was facing way back in 2012. They were way ahead of the curve, building applications in a totally new way, but the tools they had to watch over them, they just couldn't handle it. They were literally breaking under the pressure.
And this became SoundCloud's monitoring crisis. This wasn't just some small technical glitch, you know? It was a fundamental threat to their ability to grow and even just operate reliably.
The real issue here was a massive technical mismatch. See, SoundCloud's entire infrastructure was dynamic and containerized. Servers and services were ephemeral. They were meant to pop into existence and then disappear whenever needed. The problem was their monitoring tools were from another time, a static world where servers had names and you knew they'd still be there in the morning. Those old tools were completely and utterly lost.
But you know what they say, right? Crisis is often the mother of invention. And faced with this mess, the engineers at SoundCloud didn't just patch things up. No, they forged an entirely new way of thinking about monitoring.
And that new approach was called Prometheus. It was built from the ground up to solve this exact problem. It's a monitoring system, but it's also a time series database, which is just a fancy way of saying it stores data points with a timestamp, perfect for tracking how things change. It was designed from day one for reliability in these crazy, ever-changing environments. And, this part is key, it was open source right from the start.
So, what made it so revolutionary? Well, the absolute game changer was how it collected data. Traditional systems use what's called a push model. Every single application had to be configured to push its data to some central server. Prometheus just flipped that whole idea on its head. It uses a pull model. The main server actively goes out and pulls or scrapes the data it needs. This makes things so much simpler, because now your applications just have to expose the data. They don't have to care about where it's going.
So let's dig in a little deeper. How does this whole pull-based thing actually work? What makes it so tough and reliable?
It's actually a beautifully simple cycle. First, the Prometheus server pulls or checks in on its list of targets every few seconds. Second, those targets, your apps, just expose their latest metrics on a simple web page, an endpoint. And third, the server scrapes that data and stores it with a timestamp. That's it. Simple, regular, predictable, it just works. And this design all comes from one core philosophy: reliability above all else. Prometheus has no external dependencies for its basic job, so if your whole network is on fire, your monitoring system won't fall over with it. It stores data locally, and it's built to be federated, meaning you can have a Prometheus watching over other Prometheus instances. It's basically built like a time. Okay, so collecting tons of data is great, but that's really only half the battle. The true superpower of Prometheus is what it lets you do with all that data. And for that, they gave us something called PromQL.
PromQL is this incredibly powerful query language made just for time series data. It lets engineers get answers and get them fast. You can calculate rates of change, find averages, see trends, but the real magic is in setting really smart alerts. You can ask it super specific questions like, alert me if the 95th percentile request latency for my API stays over 300 milliseconds for more than 5 minutes. It is the brain of the entire operation.
With a design this brilliant, you can bet that Prometheus did not stay a SoundCloud-only project for very long. It caught the eye of the entire industry, and it started its journey to becoming a global standard.
And its rise was fast. I mean, really fast. It was born in 2012, but the pivotal moment came in 2016 when it was accepted into the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, the CNCF. From that point on, its path was pretty much set.
And to give you some perspective on just how huge that was, Prometheus was only the second project ever accepted by the CNCF. Any guesses on the first? Yep, Kubernetes. That's the company it keeps. This basically cemented its role as a foundational piece of the entire cloud-native puzzle. And it didn't stay alone. Prometheus became this center of gravity for a whole ecosystem of amazing tools. It works perfectly with Grafana to create beautiful dashboards, it uses Alert Manager to handle notifications intelligently, and there's a massive library of things called exporters that let it pull metrics from, well, just about anything you can imagine.
So let's just zoom out for a second and think about the real legacy of Prometheus. What is its impact today, and why does it matter to all of us, not just the engineers?
While its reach is just immense, it's the go-to monitoring for gigantic Kubernetes clusters and complicated microservice setups. But people are also using it to monitor Internet of Things platforms, even tiny devices at the edge of the network. Basically, if it's part of the modern web, there's a really good chance Prometheus is watching over it.
And the companies that rely on it, I mean, it's a who's who of the tech world. Red Hat, GitLab, DigitalOcean, they embed this deep into their infrastructure. Thousands of businesses around the world trust it as a core, essential component.
And that brings us right back to where we started. Prometheus isn't just a tool. It became the steady, reliable pulse, the actual heartbeat of cloud-native infrastructure. It gives us the visibility we need into the health of the systems that run our digital lives.
Prometheus solved the monitoring crisis of its time by embracing this dynamic, pull-based world. And that leaves us with one last really interesting question to think about. As technology keeps changing at this incredible pace, what will be the heartbeat of tomorrow's internet?